When an author has to say this about their book,
It's kind of a hard one to explain without spoiling it, but it's kind of part Terminator, part Dark Crystal in like a Roman wrapper.
Wait, what?
you know it's a great book. Hey everyone, Fini here from Fino Reads. Welcome and welcome back to my channel. Today with another book review, specifically of Dreams of the Fallen by A.S. Colworth, which is an epic fantasy that I've read a couple of weeks ago, and I'm really excited to talk with you about it. Just, up front, I received an e-arc, meaning an ebook copy of the book from the author, but as you can see, I got myself a paperback copy, which is always a good sign for you that I really enjoyed the book and think it's worth getting into. What is the book even about? First of all, we have two POVs in this book that we're following, mainly. There are a couple of others, but essentially you're following two people. One is Dela, she's a Kosar. What that is, you learn throughout the book. And like all of a sudden, she has to leave her old life and run away to follow her destiny according to her mentor, while the mentor stays back. His goal is actually to take down the new gods, and he knows that Dela is a big part in doing so, and that she has the powers to make that happen. And then the other POV that we're following is Cassius, who is a human. He all of a sudden has to run a whole empire because the king is dead. The king died, and he is now the one that has to govern everything till a new emperor has been named, or a new king has been named. But he has no inklings for politics. He's actually a rather straightforward guy who just wants people to understand that he only wants the best for them, and he doesn't understand how this is not working. So essentially the book is about those two sides, Kosar versus human, what they mean for each other, and I can't talk much about it without getting into spoilers because that is part of the story that you learn about their relationship. A tip though, read the novella Empire's End first, because that will give you a lot more background on those two races, on their history, and how they came to be, essentially. So what to expect throughout your reading journey. So first of all, I already mentioned, right, you're getting two POVs, and I'm personally a huge fan of fantasy books where you're getting the view of the opposing sides, and you get to know those characters intimately, really learn on where their belief is coming from, where their motivation is coming from, so you then can understand why each side is doing what they're doing. And you have the same in this book. So this is perfection in that sense. Like, this book is really well done when it comes to diving into each of those sides, understanding the history, and it is really interesting to see as both characters learn more about what this world actually is about and what the background is and where their beliefs are coming from. They're adapting to it in a very interesting way, both in very different ways as well. So both of these characters couldn't be more different. Cassius is a very straightforward, direct, sometimes even aggressive person, whereas Dela is a more naive in an endearing kind of way type of character, which leads to very interesting discoveries throughout the journey for them. But it also leads to a lot of very devastating moments that kind of rip your heart out as you're reading through those. Another thing that is interesting from a what to expect type of perspective is that while this book comes with a lot of known tropes like the reluctant hero, it also adapts some of the more known tropes in a very interesting manner. The one that I enjoyed the most was kind of the meddling gods type of approach, because in this book, the gods are not some divine notion. They're very much present and play a very important role in their lives. But again, I want to avoid spoilers. I want you to experience all of that yourself. From a writing perspective, A.S. Colworth throws you into the midst of things. So he does not take you by the hand. He is not going to throw ginormous info dumps at you. You actually have to figure it out yourself. And to be very honest, I struggled with that quite a bit. So I read, 20-25% of the book, and I actually had no clue what was going on, to a point where I then reached out to the author and was like, am I supposed to be confused here? I don't understand. Like, what's even going on? I don't get the connection. And then after talking with him for a little bit and actually realizing you really need to read the novella first, I then went back and read the novella, and that changed everything. So the novella really helps in just understanding the background of the two races and understanding the situation they're in today. There's still a lot that you have to discover just by reading the story and being patient with it, but the novella helps at least with some of that background information, how Human and Korsas connect and what their history is and why they're in that situation that they're in right now. This book is a little bit slower paced. It took me like 2 weeks to get through the novella and the novel, which are together about 500 and then some pages. I believe it is not meant to be rushed through because there are a lot of layers to the story. There's a lot of detail that you're getting woven into conversations and just into descriptions, which is very interesting. Plus, there are a lot of great side characters. Like, for example, Cassius is meeting with a seer, and I really loved her in the story. She's actually one of my favorite side characters in the book. And yeah, by just going slower, you get more out of it. It's a little bit like Malazan in that sense, I find. Like the writing, the way the story is told, and just from a pace perspective, it's just a lot less people you have to follow along. So it's kind of a less complex version of Malazan, if you will. Do with that what you want. So why should you read Dreams of the Fallen by A.S. Colworth, which, by the way, is also an indie book if I haven't mentioned that yet. So that is obviously a big reason, right? We need to read more indie. But besides from that, I already mentioned the fact that it takes well-known fantasy tropes and the author adds kind of his own spin to it, like the whole meddling god situation, but also the races that you meet, like the Kosar, and there are some other races that you meet throughout the book, the creatures that you meet, kind of the quote-unquote magical abilities. It's very light because magic is actually frowned upon in this world. There are a lot of great unique aspects that make this story very interesting. Also, if you're a big ancient Rome fan, this book is strong when it comes to the Roman inspiration. Just how the empire is set up, how the Senate is set up. There's a lot of course, backstabbing happening on a political level. So if you love that kind of stuff, this book delivers on all of these elements. And then finally, the main characters. This was really the selling point for the book for me. The story is great. The world is great. And I think the world is going to be even better in books 2 and 3 and however many books the author decides to write. But just for book 1, the two main characters, both Dila and Cassius, were really what sold me on it. Talk about character development. You get so deep with them because you need to learn what their motivation is due to that opposing view type of aspect. And I thought Ash did an amazing job in delivering that and really giving us that view and giving us the understanding of where these characters are coming from and what leads them to certain decisions that they're making throughout their journey, like, or even done before we got to meet them. Just know you have to be a bit patient with the book, right? I already mentioned it is a bit on the slower side and it takes a little bit till you understand where the story is going. So what do you think? Is that kind of a book that you would be interested in reading? What is your favorite meddling gods type of story? Because that's a trope I love in fantasy, especially in more epic fantasy. The whole meddling gods aspect is always something that sells me on the book. So put down your recommendations below so I can read a bit more with that trope. And then if you're curious and want to hear more about the book itself and want to hear more from the author as well, check out the interview that he and I did a couple of weeks ago. And then if you like this type of book, don't forget to hit the subscribe button because, as you clearly heard, that's the type of book I'm reading here on my channel. And if you're looking for more recommendations, you're welcome to join. Thank you so much for stopping by. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day and I'll see you soon with my next video. Bye!